Have you ever wondered why some individuals, even in advanced age, maintain a sharp mind, vitality, and unwavering confidence, while others struggle to get out of bed, forget where they put their belongings, and fear loneliness in their own homes? Why can one 75-year-old easily take morning walks, while a peer cannot take a few steps without painful shortness of breath? The reason lies not in predestined fate, but in the condition of their blood vessels, which are the foundation of health and longevity. Blood vessels in the body can be compared to rivers. As long as they are clean and unobstructed, blood flows freely and robustly. This ensures a full supply of oxygen to the brain, guarantees stable heart function, and maintains a calm, even mood, allowing one to enjoy every day. However, as soon as these rivers begin to clog, a slow but steady deterioration of the body's condition ensues. This process develops without acute pain or obvious symptoms that might prompt immediate medical attention, making it particularly dangerous. Initially, there's only slight fatigue and an unexplained heaviness in the legs in the mornings. Then a persistent ringing or buzzing in the ears may appear, followed by a feeling of fog in the head, making thinking difficult. And one day a critical moment arrives when the heart, exhausted by constant overloads, simply ceases to perform its vital function. The great physician Sergei Petrovich Botkin, who lived in the last century, had a profound understanding of the nature of aging, asserting that it is not a sudden phenomenon, but a gradual process. In his view, the starting point of aging is blood thickening, which negatively affects circulation. If the body's natural self-cleansing efforts are not supported, life's journey can be prematurely cut short. Botkin, as if foreseeing the future of medicine, emphasized the importance of preventive measures and a holistic approach to health. In this article, we will delve into the methods of treating blood vessels used by 19th-century doctors who managed without modern medications and complex surgeries. In those times, medical science knew how to sensitively listen to the needs of the human body, perceiving it as a complex, interconnected, and self-restoring system. Thanks to this approach, doctors found simple yet effective solutions based on a deep understanding of natural processes. If questions of health and longevity resonate deep within your heart, do not stop here. Ahead, you will find information capable of not only transforming your physical condition, but also granting you years of active, fulfilling life. We present to your attention the story of a man whose fate became a tragic example of neglecting his own health. His sorrowful experience serves as a harsh reminder and a valuable lesson for each of us, urging vigilance and responsibility. Alexei Ivanovich was a man who didn't listen to himself. It seemed as though nature itself had endowed him with inexhaustible energy and robust health. His posture exuded confidence, his voice sounded firm and convincing, and his movements remained smooth and precise. At 64, he easily drove a car without glasses and enjoyed the freedom of movement. His work as an engineer brought him satisfaction, and fishing was not just a hobby, but a way to restore his inner peace. With his characteristic sense of humor, Alexei Ivanovich shrugged off the first signs of aging, saying, "I'm not old, I just didn't get enough sleep." However, in autumn, as nature prepared for winter hibernation, the first signs of trouble appeared. Morning numbness in his fingers and a persistent ringing in his ears, especially after waking, became his constant companions. He joked it off, explaining everything away as an uncomfortable pillow, and paid no attention to these quiet yet persistent signals his body was sending. 6 months later, Alexei Ivanovich began to experience constant fatigue. It wasn't debilitating, but it made him realize that something was wrong with his usually strong body. The man sought help from a doctor who tried to allay his fears. The doctor stated that age-related changes did not pose a serious threat. His blood pressure was within acceptable limits, and his heart muscle was functioning stably. Hearing this, the patient became fully convinced there was no cause for concern, and continued his usual lifestyle, neglecting the worsening signs of ill health. One day, he missed a long-awaited fishing trip, oversleeping more than usual. His wife noticed the unusual depth of his sleep, which caused her alarm. The next day he struggled to get out of bed, feeling stiffness in his legs as if they were filled with lead. Yet, even then, he didn't attach importance to it, braced himself with strong coffee, and, as usual, headed to the garage. 2 weeks after this incident, Alexei Ivanovich was in the intensive care unit. Doctors diagnosed a blood vessel blockage that had provoked a massive stroke. Unfortunately, he could not be saved. Later, doctors explained to his widow that Alexei Ivanovich's blood had been highly viscous. Small clots formed every night during sleep, and instead of dissolving, accumulated, gradually narrowing the vessel lumen. One fateful moment, one such clot completely blocked the vital pathway to the brain. Suddenly, without warning, and without any chance of survival. Such stories seem distant until you suddenly remember your own morning dizziness, persistent ringing in your ears, or inexplicable weakness in your legs. These are the first, barely perceptible, but extremely significant signals that your body sends. And if these signs are neglected, the body begins to gradually but steadily shut down, losing its functions one by one. But if this is a process, then perhaps it can be stopped, and possibly even reversed, restoring lost health. But how? The solution begins where medicine pays more attention to nature than to strict prescriptions, where doctors believe not only in the power of medications, but also in the amazing ability of the body to self-heal. This approach holds the secret to understanding why night is the most risky period for our vessels, and how this knowledge can be used to heal them. Night is a period of increased danger for blood vessels. When a person falls asleep, it seems as if everything in the body quiets down, entering a state of absolute rest. The body rests, the heart beats slowly and rhythmically, and breathing becomes deep and even. However, it is at this moment that one of the most delicate and potentially dangerous processes is initiated in the body. Blood circulation naturally slows down, muscles are inactive, organs consume less energy, and blood, deprived of active movement, becomes somewhat thicker than during the day. When a person is at rest, blood loses its natural fluidity, and microscopic clots, which during the day, thanks to active movement and increased blood flow, could dissolve freely, begin to settle on vessel walls. This process is imperceptible, without any pain or obvious signs, but blood particles gradually accumulate on the inner surfaces of vessels, forming microscopic deposits. If this repeats regularly, day after day, night after night, then over time, dense formations, known as dormant clots, form in the vessels. They do not manifest themselves in any way, do not interfere with normal life, remaining invisible and causing no concern. However, one fine moment when blood pressure suddenly rises, for example, due to emotional shock or intense physical activity, upon suddenly getting out of bed, or even with a simple turn in sleep, one of these clots can break off and begin a dangerous journey through the circulatory system. And if this detached clot reaches the heart or brain, the consequences can be catastrophic, leading to myocardial infarction or stroke. Do you feel an unpleasant heaviness in your lower limbs in the mornings, a persistent ringing in your ears, and reduced concentration even when performing simple tasks? Do not attribute this to normal age-related changes, as these can be clear signs of blood stagnation. Your circulatory system is sending an alarming signal, indicating that blood is no longer circulating properly and needs support. However, do not despair, for the human body has an amazing ability to self-cleanse and restore itself. Often, it does not require complex medications or invasive surgical interventions. It is only important to understand when and how to properly support its natural functions. In this context, the knowledge possessed by the outstanding physician Sergei Botkin acquires special value and relevance. He was convinced that precisely at night, when the body is at rest, the organism activates powerful processes of self-cleansing and regeneration. The main task is not to hinder these processes, but, on the contrary, to create favorable conditions for their flow. What secrets about blood vessels were known to Botkin, but unfortunately lost by many modern doctors? And why do his methods continue to work even a century later, without losing their effectiveness and relevance? In the 19th century, medical specialists did not have modern technologies such as magnetic resonance imaging, ultrasound, or complex blood tests. However, they possessed something more valuable: deep observation and a holistic approach to the organism. They viewed the human being not as a collection of separate organs, but as a single, interconnected system, where all elements, nutrition, emotional state, physical activity, and sleep, have a direct impact on overall health. Within the framework of a holistic approach to health, Sergei Petrovich Botkin, an outstanding figure deservedly considered the founder of the Russian therapeutic school today, revolutionized the understanding of the human body. He was one of the first to note that the cardiovascular system is not just a mechanical pump and a system of tubes, but a complex, dynamic mechanism whose condition directly influences every cell and function in the body. Botkin deeply understood that when blood's rheological properties worsen, becoming thick and viscous, no organ can receive enough nutrients and oxygen for normal functioning. Furthermore, he understood that the loss of vessel elasticity triggers a cascade of destructive processes. Arterial pressure becomes unstable, the brain suffers from insufficient blood supply, and the heart undergoes premature wear. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Botkin did not limit himself to treating already developed diseases, but sought to identify and eliminate their root causes. He observed that some patients recovered faster and easier, while others suffered for years despite all efforts. As a result of his observations, he established a pattern. People who adhered to proper nutrition, paid enough attention to physical activity, and helped their body cleanse itself at night, lived longer, aged slower, and maintained mental clarity and energy for many years. Botkin carefully recorded recipes for infusions that had a gentle but effective effect on blood thinning, strengthening vessel walls, and restoring their lost flexibility. It is important to note that all these remedies consisted exclusively of natural components, distinguished by their accessibility and safety. He possessed deep knowledge of when these natural substances showed their maximum effectiveness, and why certain herbs, combined in specific proportions, had a powerful synergistic cleansing effect that could not be achieved using a single component. However, what was Botkin's main secret? Why were his recipes considered so effective and unique that they were passed down from generation to generation, retaining their value for many years? The feeling that in former times healers cared not only for physical ailments, but also for mental health, viewing the human as a whole, speaks of the loss of valuable knowledge. In an era when medicine was not yet divided into narrow specializations, doctors like Sergei Petrovich Botkin created unique healing remedies relying on a deep understanding of the laws of nature. One such treasure was Botkin's night infusion for cleansing vessels. He took into account that it is during sleep that the body activates processes of restoration and regeneration. This recipe was not a random combination of herbs, but rather a carefully calibrated formula, where each ingredient performed its specific task, like a skilled musician in an orchestra. Today, scientific research confirms the healing properties of many of these plants, but Botkin understood their power long before this, thanks to years of experience and careful observation of the body's reaction. The heart of this recipe was dried hawthorn berries, taking a place of honor in the amount of 2 tablespoons. Before use, it was recommended to lightly crush them to accelerate the release of active substances. Hawthorn has long been renowned for its ability to dilate blood vessels, gently lower blood pressure, and support heart function, reducing its workload. Continuing on the topic of vessel health, attention should be paid to red clover. 2 tablespoons of this plant can work wonders for the circulatory system. Clover, like a wise healer, improves the rheological properties of blood, delicately dissolving microscopic clots and strengthening vessel walls. It gives them elasticity and resilience, acting as a gentle and safe natural anticoagulant without side effects. We cannot overlook 3 cloves of garlic, an indispensable attribute of a healthy heart and vessels. It is important to note that garlic should not be sliced, but crushed. This simple mechanical action releases valuable sulfur-containing compounds that prevent excessive blood clotting. Garlic acts as a powerful natural filter, thoroughly cleansing the blood of harmful substances and toxins. Valerian root, previously crushed, also plays an important role in maintaining vessel health. It has the unique ability to relax vessel walls, relieving spasms and tension. This allows blood to circulate freely and unhindered throughout the body, even in a state of deep rest, which is especially valuable at night when restorative processes are most active. Completing this healing ensemble is bay leaf, 3 crushed leaves. Bay, like an experienced sanitation worker, helps vessels get rid of salt deposits and various toxins that accumulate over years, gradually narrowing the lumen and reducing vessel elasticity. It restores their youth and flexibility, ensuring the uninterrupted functioning of the entire circulatory system. To prepare the healing infusion, you need ½ liter of high-quality vodka or medical alcohol to extract the beneficial substances from the ingredients as effectively as possible. The mixture is infused in a dark, cool place for 10 days with daily shaking to ensure uniform distribution of active components. After the infusion process is complete, the liquid is carefully strained through several layers of cheesecloth, poured into a dark glass container, and placed in the refrigerator for preservation. It is recommended to consume the infusion before bed, diluting 20 drops in half a glass of warm water. Nighttime is chosen for a reason. It is during this period that the body actively engages in self-cleansing and restoration, allowing the infusion to act most effectively. After some time of regular use, people notice significant improvements in their condition. Lightness in legs appears, arterial pressure stabilizes, morning dizziness disappears, and overall well-being noticeably improves, returning a sense of energy and mental clarity. However, what happens if these signals are ignored and vessels are allowed to continue to deteriorate? The human body is a complex system that doesn't break down suddenly. It constantly sends warning signs, which unfortunately are often ignored until it's too late. When blood thickens, the brain begins to suffer from oxygen deprivation, which immediately affects its functions. First, this manifests as causeless fatigue, then problems with concentration and memory. Later, sudden bouts of irritability and inexplicable anxiety may appear, which are usually attributed to stress, weather changes, or age-related changes. But in reality, these are the vessels desperately trying to draw attention to themselves, while there is still a chance to help. Clogged blood vessels represent not just a potential threat of stroke or heart attack, but an insidious and gradual suppression of vital bodily functions. This manifests as persistent chronic fatigue that doesn't subside even after prolonged rest, sleep disturbances, anxious awakenings in the middle of the night, and an oppressive feeling of internal malaise, despite seemingly normal medical test results. In such a state, a person experiences inexplicable mental anxiety and discomfort, while the body cannot pinpoint the cause of suffering. The worst part is that one gradually gets used to this state. Over time, people adapt to existing in a semi-conscious state, constantly feeling tired and unwell until they suddenly collapse, as the body can no longer cope with the burden placed upon it. However, nature has endowed us with a unique mechanism of restoration. The body strives for self-cleansing and tries to realize this desire every night using its own internal reserves. It is only necessary not to hinder this process and provide it with the necessary tools for its implementation. Sergei Botkin was convinced that treating illness is a belated measure. It is much wiser to prevent its occurrence. That is why his tincture had a gentle but profound effect. It did not disrupt natural processes, but activated and amplified what is already inherent in us by nature: the ability to self-heal. However, even such an effective and natural method of healing is not suitable for everyone. Next, we will consider for whom it may be undesirable, despite all its obvious advantages. If your body has ever sent silent signals that you felt as a soundless scream, then you understand what is being discussed. We are talking about problems that the body hints at for years before manifesting as acute pain. Who might the tincture harm? Any powerful remedy, even the most natural, can cause harm if used without deep understanding and consideration of individual body characteristics. Botkin's recipe indeed helps cleanse vessels and improve circulation, but there are situations when the body may react unpredictably, and instead of the expected benefit, the condition will worsen. For example, if a person initially has low blood pressure, hypotension, the tincture, containing hawthorn and valerian, can worsen this condition, making the blood excessively light and fluid. This can cause pronounced weakness, dizziness, and, in serious cases, even fainting, which poses a significant health threat. Combining anticoagulants with garlic and clover, known for their blood-thinning properties, can lead to undesirable consequences, namely, excessive blood thinning. Such a state is extremely dangerous due to the risk of hidden internal bleeding, which is difficult to detect in time, potentially leading to serious health complications. People suffering from stomach or duodenal ulcers, as well as chronic gastritis, should exercise particular caution. Garlic and bay leaf, components of the tincture, can irritate the stomach lining and exacerbate inflammatory processes, causing pain and discomfort. An absolute contraindication is an allergy to any of the tincture components. Even the most carefully developed formula can be harmful if the body shows intolerance to it. However, in the absence of the aforementioned contraindications, this remedy can become a reliable helper that will gently cleanse vessels and support heart health, contributing to longevity. How else can vessel health be supported without resorting to questionable infusions and risky methods, yet achieving tangible results? The answer lies in the wisdom of ancient healers, in a simple and accessible remedy for everyone. The great scientist and physician Avicenna, who lived 1,000 years ago, was not familiar with modern medical terms such as hypodynamia or thrombosis. However, his deep knowledge of the human body and careful observations of people's lifestyles allowed him to draw conclusions that were far ahead of his time. He advised, "After a meal, one should not remain seated or lying down. It is better to take a short walk. In these simple words lies profound wisdom." Movement is not just physical activity. It is life itself, a signal for the body to continue working, cleansing, and remaining flexible and healthy. When a person spends long hours in a sedentary state, their blood, like stagnant water, begins to thicken. Vessels lose elasticity, and oxygen cannot sufficiently reach every cell. This leads to problems that could be avoided by following simple principles of movement. Avicenna noted that people leading an active lifestyle live longer and maintain mental clarity into old age. He didn't call for exhausting marathons or weightlifting. His advice was simple. Warm up, rotate your neck, move your arms, so that the blood comes alive and begins to circulate freely. Do not rush to the table immediately after waking. It is much wiser to focus on waking up the body. A few simple exercises, deep breathing, and light stretching can work wonders, activating blood flow and benefiting vessels. For sedentary work, periodic breaks for a short walk around the room will be an excellent way to prevent blood stagnation and clot formation. Surprisingly, this simple advice is effective even today, without the need for any infusions. However, this is only part of caring for vessel health, as not only movement, but also beverages play an important role. If the body signals fatigue and a need for movement, do not ignore these signals. The first step towards activity is one step forward, and seeking out useful information is the first step towards new knowledge. Avicenna, the great ancient scholar, viewed water as more than just a liquid, seeing in it a living substance capable of both healing and harming, depending on its use. He advised drinking warm water, emphasizing its ability to gently cleanse and dilate vessels, unlike cold water, which causes them to constrict. Modern science fully confirms the wisdom of the ancients. Cold water can indeed cause vessel spasm, especially in people over 50, creating additional strain on the cardiovascular system. Warm water, on the contrary, promotes smooth blood circulation, preventing sudden pressure spikes and promoting relaxation of vessel walls. Avicenna was convinced of the extraordinary healing power of lemon, cinnamon, saffron, and ginger, considering them not just spices, but effective medicinal remedies. He believed that these gifts of nature could improve blood fluidity, cleanse vessels of cholesterol deposits, and give the body a feeling of lightness. One of his favorite recipes was an infusion of bay leaf with added cinnamon and honey. Avicenna noted that people who consumed this drink before sleep experienced deeper and more serene sleep, regulated heart rhythm, and woke up feeling vigorous and refreshed. However, Avicenna's most important discovery was the understanding that emotional state influences the condition of vessels, no less than food or physical exercise. Anger, anxiety, and fear, as powerful negative emotions, cause vessel spasms, thicken blood, and slow its circulation. He warned, "Do not eat in anger, do not drink in anxiety, and do not fall asleep in fear." Before going to sleep, he advised drinking a warm beverage, creating an atmosphere of quiet and peace, and focusing on deep and even breathing. Thus, one can support vessel health through natural relaxation and restoration, avoiding medical intervention. A legitimate question arises: why are these simple and wise solutions forgotten today? Why do we so often resort to complex medications and invasive procedures instead? The answer to this question lies in the concluding words of this video. Even when a person tries not to notice the signals of their own body, it continues to speak persistently. One can ignore fatigue, ringing in the ears, or heaviness in the legs, attributing them to external factors. However, a moment comes when the body starts to give up, having exhausted all its reserves. It is important to understand that the body does not seek revenge, it merely warns, sending signs long before the critical point. It provides many opportunities to be heard. True health lies not in a constant struggle with diseases, but in creating a lifestyle that prevents them from arising. Healthy blood vessels are not an accident, but the result of conscious actions, adequate sleep, moderate physical activity, maintaining warmth, balanced nutrition, and emotional control. The human heart works tirelessly, responding to every choice made. It listens attentively to lifestyle and decisions. Every evening, the heart awaits. Will it be subjected to additional stress and harmful habits, or will it be given a chance for restoration and cleansing? This choice determines not only the immediate state, but also the duration of an active, fulfilling life.